Okay, guys, sorry about that. Just getting my new audio stuff set up. Welcome to the stream. SmartHelping.com here. Check out SmartHelping.com for more advanced financial models and templates and tracking tools. Okay, so what I'm going to get into today is part two of the franchisor model, which is somebody who is selling their business model, essentially trademarks, or they're licensing it out to other franchisees and then in return for a fee. I've done some research on this over the past week, so we've got some more logic that I'm going to show you guys to build into this. Is going to be really cool. So before I get started, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and if you want to support the stream, go ahead and join. It's $5 a month, just helps keep me going. And thank you to current members. It's much appreciated. So before I get into this, let me do a sound check real quick. On my phone. I have to always do this because sometimes the sound's weird. And I don't want to do the whole stream with no sound, and then it's just okay, it's good. Perfect. So let's just get started here. Um, so if we go into this source I just looked at, startyournewfranchise.com. This was basically I'm not interested in specific numbers when I build these models. I'm interested more in what logic is required for somebody to build a model that makes the most sense. So in this, they're saying, on average, a franchisor actually takes 18 to 22 months to break even on a new unit, meaning even counting usually, like, if I want to join a franchise, I'll have to pay the franchisor, like, say 20 or 30 or $40,000 or 50,000, whatever it might be, a one-time fee, and then I have to pay my ongoing costs, or ongoing, like, licensing on gross revenues or profits. It depends on how the deal's set up. So what's interesting now is there's costs, recruitment costs, training fees, additional website development, marketing plan, support system personnel, technology implementation, document writing, consultation, legal costs. There's all of that every time a new franchisor adds a new franchisee unit. So we're going to try to capture all of that in this. Let me copy this over here. And a big thing of it is essentially the franchisor is trying to support the franchisees as best as they can, so that they can, because their earnings are going to be based on how much revenues and profits the franchisee makes. So if we look at some of these, clear formatting. So this is all one time. So we're going to assume we'll just give how many slots are here. 8. We'll do like 15. And we're going to do, so we're going to do these at the top. So these are variables. So setup costs per new franchise unit. So on average, every unit is going to have cost the franchisor bears. 1, 2, and you could rename these whatever makes sense for your franchisor. 10. Let's just do 10. And actually, since we're doing 3 different types of locations, it's very possible there's different training and website and all the different costs for each type of location. So we have to do 3 sets. So this is location 1, and you actually might have different costs here for each location. So I can't just go locate. What I would like to do is just go location 1, 2, 3, and list the costs here. But the actual cost types might vary as well. So we're going to give this max flexibility, the model, and build in all 3 separately. And this will all flow based on however many locations are added over time based on the assumptions we did in build out. And that was done on the part 1 of this live stream. So what we're going to have to do, so these are going to be one-time startup costs. So every time a new franchise is added, which we have the starting count of locations added, the growth of that, and the percentage of those locations that are of each location type, their revenue, their expected annual growth rates once they join, all kinds of stuff. Uh, how many years there's initial growth and then stabilized growth. All these are important to factor in when figuring out how much money you might make as a franchisor who collects money off of the revenues of these locations. We also want to change, I want to do the franchise fee as a variable per location type. So we want 2 sets of those. So this is actually, let's make this easier. Licensing royalty fee per location type. And we'll just do 1, 2, and 3. And then we also want to do ad fee. And you might not have an ad fee, but if you do, you can account for it by location type. Oh, come on. I'm working on a TV right now. Come on. I can't hit the control. Okay. I'm trying to hit control C. It's not working. Copy, paste, paste. And it's not likely these change over time. It's very rare. So with especially with your models probably gonna for modeling purposes, that number you just don't know. So we're gonna put it over here in the first column. If I could get the right, there we go. Okay, so that's dynamic now. Want to make as many things referenceable and dynamic as possible, and that will give the best end result for the financial model. So 3 location types. Let's say this is a 5, a 7, and a 6.5. Let's say 1.5 and 7.5. I just like to put some different numbers in here, so when I test the logic, I know it's working. Okay, let's label this. So this is ongoing fees, revenue fees. This is one-time fees. Location growth. Yeah, I think this is pretty good for now. Let's go back to the expenses. So these are one-time expenses. I just ran between. I'll just put some random numbers in here. This is location 2. Location type 1, 2, and 3. Now, most people will probably just be using one location type, but you might not. You might say, well, this part of the country I want to build out has, the cost for this stuff are different in that area or region, or it could be a different country. And again, so you need that granularity to show variance in the types of locations or franchises you're getting. Especially that's true for revenues. But maybe you might just have one type of location to scale that out. That'll be fine, and you'll just zero out all the unused location types, and that'll be no issue. All right, so these are, let's call this onboarding. This is onboarding. Yeah, this model is going to be a pretty big doozy. We might go 4 or 5 weeks on this one, which is fine. I've actually got my model production for 2021 is way up in the amount of stuff I've been building. And so I don't mind taking as much time as it needs to build this out. All right, so let's just think about realistically, what are we saying here? So you sign on locations, it's going to cost you this amount. You're going to collect this one-time fee, and it doesn't matter what location type, the fee is always going to be the same. That doesn't vary. I've never actually seen that vary like if it's a McDonald's franchise, it doesn't matter where you're opening it up, the franchise fee up front is the same. So they collect that fee. They have to pay all these other different costs to get going. So note, if these costs are here, you don't want to double count them in your ongoing operating costs. And for that, it'll be more generic, like a regular business model with different cost types, the start month and the monthly cost over the 10-year period. Let's just pull one out here. And I'm trying to think what makes this going to be. Let's see. How do I want to do this? I don't know. Let's not use this one. I want to make the best decision for what's going to be, what makes sense to make automated, like a variable cost versus what should be manually hard coded in. I think one of the main things is going to be like usually so McDonald's is making their own ads, and that benefits all the franchises, right? Now the amount and cost of those ads is based on, you know what, that could probably be fixed because your based on your build out assumptions here, you're going to know how many locations you have over time, and you're going to be able to tailor your marketing spend based on those locations, where they are, and what those marketing costs and ad spend might look like. I don't think it makes sense to make it a percentage of revenue for the franchisor. Like if you're collecting all these fees, let's say your revenue per year's, I don't know, $10 million. You spend, let's say, 2% of that on ads. It's more of a top-down approach, because then you'll have to go and say, well, 2%, how much is that? And then what is 2% of, like, what will that get me? Then you have to look at the number, the actual value that equals, and figure out how does that fit into my rollout of onboarding of franchises, and does it make sense? So it's kind of, it's automated, but it's honestly, it doesn't really save time. I think it makes more sense to have sales and marketing costs defined. We'll see though. We'll walk through the logic and see what makes the most sense in the end. All right. Oh yeah, and we're going out 10 years. We've also got, this is a different color? Yeah. Let me just pull in my other format from this that I want to take, and then we'll keep going here on it. Okay, that's enough to get us. Let's update all the colors here. So a lot of the fixed costs, oh, a lot of the fixed costs are going to be like administrative, like say a CEO, office utilities, high level, marketing managers, just things that were um, costs related to running the franchise or entity itself. And there will be a catch-all down here, which will be just a function of total revenue. So you can enter whatever percentage, and if you can't figure out a better way to integrate it into the logic that's there, you can try to catch it in this variable percentage. just doing the data validation. Now, no, if you were using this, you can't just drag these down because you're going to see the date in the top. It's 1/1, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4. You will want it always to be the first day of whatever month you're doing. And I get all the time people end up messing that up and are wondering why the values are a month behind in the models because either use a drop down, like manually go in it for each cost and figure out the date you think it's going to be, or you have to highlight. So if you wanted all these to be the same month, you would highlight and say, okay, Jan 1, you can highlight both of them and then drag it down, and then Excel will hold the one and it won't like go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see all those are 1, 1. And if you wanted to go staggered every month forward, you can highlight, make sure this is 1, 1, make sure this is 2, 1. And if you drag that, highlight both and drag it down, it will go 1 month forward and keep the first day of every month. So this is what you can use to figure out. You might not have any R&D, might mostly be G&A and then sales and marketing, S&M. The tricky part here is going to be defining variable cost related to locations. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know the one-time cost makes sense, and that's good how it is. Let's unmerge this. So fixed costs, that'll handle a lot of stuff. We've got initial one-time costs, onboarding. Now the question is, what do we want to do? And I think the answer is going to be just define a schedule for ongoing cost per location. And we can say, assuming you can't account for it here, and it's not a initial cost, it's something that you have to do every single month, but it's based on a per location basis. And it might consist of a bunch of different things. Also, I mean, and this could be a catch-all if you don't want to do your sales and marketing at a high level, kind of top down, and you want to do it like, say you want to spend $800 per month on ads per location. Well, that's a good thing to make dynamic. So that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So watch this. We can make a copy of this. Man, I love this model's really coming together now. Like, this is going to be really good for any franchisor. Ongoing variable costs. No, ongoing costs per location. per unit. So we're going to have location type 1, 2, and 3, and look, it's the same thing as the onboarding, except these happen every month per location instead of one time. So like this could be ad spend, um, ongoing tech support, etc. And it could be different for each location type. Let's say you want to spend 800 bucks a month on ads. Tech support for each location is, let's say, 1500. And these are just extra slots. So now we have some dynamic costs over time and initial onboarding costs. And also obviously the operating costs of running the franchise, like a CEO, again, marketing manager, just high level positions where there's only, it's at the franchisor level to operate. Oh, where's location type 2? Lost it there in the switch. I think ad spend makes this the most clear of what kind of cost this is, because every month, like, the idea of spending an X amount of dollars per location is more of a budgeting thing that makes a lot of sense to, like, that makes sense. All right, I mean, we might be ready to start on the monthly detail, P&L detail, which is going to list everything top to bottom, all the different costs and logic and everything. I don't want to use the dark purple. We're just going to go with the gray. Or actually, we could do black and white. Okay, and go out, let's see, 2021 to 2030. There's going to be lots of logic going on here, especially the dynamic growth rates. Definitely going to require some matrices, uh, structures. All right, 10 years. All right, so what's the best way to scale this around? So we've got build out. And note, if you wanted to, if this percentage was on gross profit or net profit of each location, the numbers probably are bigger, but you can adjust that. And then down here, instead of putting total revenue per location, you can just put whatever the profit is. So it's not tied to it, top line revenue if that's not how you're setting up your structure, your business. Uh, you could do whatever you think, whatever value you want to base it on. You can just adjust it to be what you think it's going to be for each location type. And same with the growth of that. Like, your revenue might not grow as much as your EBITDA or gross profit. Um, so that can all be adjusted dynamically. So the first thing is we probably want to list out. I kind of want to go top to bottom. Like we start with location count. We go location type 1, 2, and 3, and we can start referencing this with this. So if you want to define or rename what location type 1 is, like east region, west region, south region, whatever, you can do that right there, and we'll just make that editable. And now every place that says location type 1, 2, and 3 will be based on that. All right, location types. Yep, change these. It's fun. In financial modeling, slower is actually faster. When you go slow and make sure you don't make errors, it prevents a lot of time down the line when you're trying to make sure everything's accurate and all your cell references make sense. So now here I can actually do, well, just go right from here. Let's format our dates here to be just month and year. That looks better. Alrighty. So got that onboarding cost. We're gonna, since we're just using location term instead of unit, let's just put location. Per location type. Onboarding. Oh, it's too long. Shoot. Can we do running cost per location type? That works. And I'll just put a note here on the side. I always make notes if there's any question on what's going on here. Like, the cost values entered here will populate per month, per location, based on how many total locations have been added over time. For example, if you want to define X dollars spent per location per month on ads, that can be defined here. And there could be all kinds of different, it depends on the franchise, what it actually is doing. But that's why I put in a bunch of extra slots, 10 here. And then these are just more of operating the franchisor. That's that. The only difficult part here is going to be this revenue growth logic, but it'll be possible. It's just that's going to be the most difficult. Now, one of the easier ways, when you have all this stuff and different things are based on different assumptions, and you've got like 3 different step calculations, the best way to model it is to have everything laid out separately. So we want to put location counts like as their base units. So uh, so we want to go locations, locations, and then we'll do 2 things here. Count added per month by type. And then we also want the cumulative. Now, what's important here is there's going to be some failure rate. And I don't want to get too in depth here, but I do want to say, like, over time, there's going to be situations where the franchisor invests in, all these startup costs for the franchise, and they run for a bit, maybe a year or a year and a half, and then they fail. That's really important because that's going to be places where the franchisor can lose money if their failure rate is too high. So we're going to have to define, let's see, average failure rate of a franchise. 90% of franchise businesses are still operating after 5 years. Wow. So the national average for small business is 80%. So franchises you go from 80 to 92, so that's good. So essentially, we're saying after 5 years, only 8% have been lost on average. So we can have, it doesn't matter what the number is. The point is, I'm going to build logic so that you can enter a number that makes sense there for you, and it'll, 1 second, and it'll all go through and make sense. Alrighty. Get a little sip of some applesauce here. 1 sec. Sorry. All right. All right. So we're going to have, so locations added, we're going to say as long as this isn't past our exit date, if there is an exit entered, because you could make this model only go for 3 years, 5 years, and up to 10. And if there's an exit month, if this is greater than that, then 0 out. Otherwise, oh, okay. So hold on. We got to add some logic here. I just forgot. So we need to know the start month of each location type in case you want to roll out let's say East Coast locations in January, West Coast locations in June of the following year, and Canada locations in the next year. So you need to have that um, date functionality. So let's find it. Where's our drop down here? And note these dates will change if you change the start year here. All the information in the drop downs in all the different places in the model will change. So see how start year is 2021. If I were to change this to 2022, you can see now, if I go up to the top, now my start year is 2022. And actually we'll keep it at 2020. Now let's keep it at 2021. Since I already had the defaults like that for the cost build out or operating costs. Yeah, and all these are dynamic too, based on the date. So everything's, you can change the date, start year, and it all updates. Okay, where was I? Start month. So where do we want to put the start date? I guess right here works. Oh, now my control C is working. Let's say you want to do this in June, and then let's say this next year. Um, Start month of rollout. Now this presents some more complexity. This is, just note that entropy is a real thing, and as you make things more complex or try to add things or make whatever, things just get more and more chaotic. But I'm trying to make some order out of that chaos. So here you can see now if I do a start month, I've still got this start location added. I guess I'm gonna have to change that to, actually this makes a lot of sense. That should be based on location type, and also the growth of locations added should be variable per location type as well. So this is actually fine. You know, you might grow your east coast stuff faster or west coast stuff, and then you might have different starting counts of each rollout assumption. So added by type, and then again we just do our, get some more spaces in here. Man, this model's actually really cool. And I guess while we're at it, now we'll leave the franchise fee as a standalone. That really, I don't think that needs to vary. So franchise fee, well, you know what? While we're at it, let's just make that variable as well. 1, 2, 3. It can't hurt, and it only makes the model better, so why not? No pressure here to finish this at any point in time. And it's a lot easier to do this now than try and do it when the model's already half built. Starting locations added by per location type. So let's say 10. Let's say 50, 100, 25. 25. And then let's go all, really you want the start month to be at the top. So let's just put that up there because you're going to think like that's just something that is likely. Dang it. You expect that to be at the top of your assumptions is when you're opening each or starting to roll out each type. And I guess this will be up here then. And this is starting month of onboarding, start month per location type. There we have it. So you pick the start month, pick your licensing fee, you think your franchise fees. Then we get into the counts and the growth. Let's see, we got to move this down. Yeah, this model is going to be something else when it's done. Definitely a good one. Try to be consistent here. Yeah, these need to be lighter. There we go. All right. So onboarding, fees, that, growth. Okay. So if the start month equals the month that in the model, P&L detail, it'll be this number. Otherwise, it's going to grow by whatever percentage it is based on the year. So here, let's get back into our formula and do this correctly. So if E4, it's our date, is greater than C5, then 0. Otherwise, if E4 equals, and then location type 1, date, start month. Oh wait, we put these up here. I'll have to delete that down there. If it equals that, then pick this value. Otherwise 0, and then we'll update to 0 in a second. Hold on. Just let me lock this. This goes down, but not over, and this goes down. Now I believe I can go down the line here. Okay, perfect. With the churn of like, so that 95 is saying, what was it, 95% of franchise businesses or franchises are still in business after 5 years. We'll have to add a percentage to total. Probably. Let me say, I got to get down further to see how I'm going to structure the revenues. And that's going to basically define how that works. So just hang tight on that. All right, total location count. Now, back to this formula. So this formula is fine for this, but if it's, here's the thing. If it does equal that date, then pick that. Otherwise, so if it's greater than is 0, if it equals that, it's that. Otherwise, um, do E8 times 1 plus, and then this is going to be an index formula. And I want to index the growth rate of locations added per year, or the monthly growth in each year. So year 1 is going to be 1% per month. Match, and then or F4. Comma. Oh wait, no. We need the year. I think it's F3. And then look up the year, comma 0. Let's make sure no, it's F2 actually. Lock row 4 on build out. Lock F2 going down. 31 can actually roll up and down. E8 is fine. That's fine. Okay. And we should be able to drag this over. Perfect. And down. And there we go. So remember, that growth rate's not the growth of locations, it's the growth of how many locations are added per month. So you would start, and let's think about that. Does that make the most sense is the question. And let's also remove, let's see, we don't need this anymore here. So if you're saying, if you want to add locations, let's say location type 1 starts, you're going to roll out 50 in the first month. And then month 2, you're going to roll out 1% more than 50. And then month 3, you're going to roll out 1% more than that. So that gets pretty steep. I'm trying to think of the best logic for doing this. So you could say an initial amount. Let's say you start out with a bigger rollout, but then the starting amount ongoing, like this could be you start out with 50 and then over time you add 3 per month. But the amount in that 3, let's say this is 3, 5, 10. You add 3 per month and then you add 1% more, even though it's not a whole number, that's okay. You're adding a little bit more than 3 the next month and a little bit more, a little bit more. So we'll do initial rollout. Nah, you know what? I think it's fine. Because what's really going to matter is you can adjust these percentages. So let's say you start with like 5, 15, and 8. Whenever you start trying to franchise out your business model. So you do all the work to get everything set up and you're streamlined. Okay, so you start with 5, 15, and 8. And then, so 5, and then maybe it'll never be less than that, less than 5 added per month. I'm trying to think if this is more useful or if it's more useful to just do a second, like here's your initial amount and then here's the amount added it after that per month, and then you could either do 0%. Yeah, I think we're going to do this here. So let's say it's 1, 2, 1, or 1, 3, 2. This is starting added locations per month, initial rollout location count. And this is also really good if you are trying to say, well, I've got a franchise, I'm a franchisor and I've got some locations right now, but I want to see what happens. So here's my starting location count right now. So it could be if you're an ongoing franchisor and you want to do a model, you could say, okay, I have X, Y, and Z locations right now. And then in the future, I think location type 1, I'm going to add 1 per month. And then that 1 is going to grow by whatever percentage you put in here. Or if you do 0, it's just going to say, okay, you're adding 1 per month into perpetuity, or 3 per month, or 2, or whatever, if you put 0% in here. I think that gives the most flexibility and makes this a wider use case template. So we'll do that. Because now we've added the ability to account more accurately for an existing operation or uh, a new operation where you have a rollout and then you're adding locations. Or if this is the number you're going to add per month, you could put 5 to 15, 8 here, and you could put it again here, and then it'll grow at that starting amount. So now it doesn't work for anything less, and now it just adds essentially 2 more uses to the model without compromising anything else. So that's good. Uh, so this formula is going to get more complex though. So we go, if it's greater than that, 0, fine. If that equals that, then just the first rollout thing. Otherwise, if if E4, how do we need to do 1 month after. If E date, comma, E4, -1. So that's saying if it's the month after the start month, equals the start month here. If that is true, then pull this number. Otherwise, grow it at the rate we're growing. Now let's see if that's going to work. It looks, are we growing though? Yes, we are. Okay, awesome. So 15, so your initial amount, which may or may not be the same as that, how many you're adding per month, then you start adding per month, and every month you're growing at a percentage from that. Perfect, that's exactly what it needs to do. And then let's make sure the growth rate models after each one correctly. So we do, let's say if year 2 is 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just need a different number for every slot. 7, 8, 9. So we should see that in here. If we do this minus this, man, it's getting hot in here. I gotta turn the air down. So that growth rate should always be 1% for year 1. 1, 4, 7. Okay. And then the second one, it's 2, 2, 5, 8. Perfect. It's working. Okay. So total locations added. And don't worry, decimals are completely fine because it's a forecast. Decimals give you actually more accurate information based on the assumptions. So don't worry about this. I'm just going to zero these out. That's completely fine. All right. Crap, it's getting hot in here. I want to keep modeling. I'll be right back 1 sec. I got to go turn the air down. All right, air is down. All right, so we got, I just want to try to get at least to the retention of locations. Like I said, it was 95% for franchises on average. So we're going to have to put some math in to account for that. Because, like I said, there's going to be times where the franchisor invests in a unit and they end up failing. So that needs to happen. Now, based on the numbers we saw, they're saying 95% of franchises actually survive the first 5 years. But we want to account for some loss. And the percentage loss we're going to put in here is, it could be assumed that, well, some businesses might actually, they might grow their revenue, then they might lose some, or you might lose locations over time, or some locations. You're not going to, essentially, you can't say 100% of the locations are going to be there at the end of 10 years that joined. Um, so we need some percentage decline to be added to this. So let's think about the best way to do that. So we can do average retention. I guess it can be a retention schedule. Man, there's so much logic to do here. It's going to be really cool once we're done. So this is going to be average We'll just do annual retention. So we're assuming every startup at least lasts for 12 months. And then every 12 months you're going to lose. Well, we could convert it into a monthly actually. So average annual retention of locations. And let's say 95% was for 5 years, so that's 5% loss per five, so so it's a 99% retention per year. And then monthly, that would be, so you're only losing 1% per year, and then if you divide that by 12, you're actually only losing, and the model just tries to smooth everything out. Obviously, you're not going to lose 0.1% of a franchise in the first month, or second month. But here we'll do average annual retention per location type. I'm trying to just do everything on a per location type, so it's super useful, super dynamic. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. So this is per year loss, per month loss. Like per month, per year, yearly retention. And actually, I don't need to convert it to a percentage loss. That's actually going to be less useful. I just need to know. So if that's the retention per month is then this 99.9. So if you started with 100 locations added, in theory, based on this, oh, in theory, based on 99% retention or survival rate, every month you only lose. So if you start with 100, in month 2, you have 100, you have that much left. And then you would just minus that by the same level because we're doing a smooth retention curve. So, and then you can see after 10 or after a year, we should see a 1% loss. So it should be at 99 at the end of a year. And there we go, even 99. So I can put all that into some schedules and logic and reference it. Now what I'm going to have to do because of that is we're going to have 3 matrix schedules for each type based on, I'll have the amount added, and then based on those retention rates, every month added, that month will have its own cohort over time to see how much of that location is in theory left over time. And then that will be used to give we'll say cumulative locations added. total locations added, but we're also going to do another table that says remaining locations. And we'll have a location churn. That's the most accurate way I could think to do it. And then the remaining location count will be what we use to figure out um, all the other ongoing revenues, the cost per location. Now the one-time onboarding costs, we're going to use these numbers here to figure that out. The actual amount added per month. So I guess we'll start with that next week. So let's go matrix. We'll just go M1. And we'll also use this matrix tabs. Will be good to do the monthly growth of revenues or the revenue growth. M2. Once we get to that point. All right, so really good work today. We did an hour and 17-minute stream so far. I'll be back next Monday at 10, and I'll keep going on this. A lot of stuff to do, but we're making progress. We got essentially all of our assumptions built out today, and now I'm starting on actually putting that logic to work here and getting some good numbers. Alrighty, don't forget, check out smarthelping.com for all kinds of templates for all industries and a lot of stuff for HR departments, real estate, waterfalls, SaaS, a lot of SaaS metric trackers as well as different types of SaaS models, joint venture models, um, all kinds of stuff. So check out that. I've got over 100 different templates, and your support is much appreciated.